Okay, guys, I'm going to start all over. So, yeah. Um, I wrote down a bunch of talking points. This video, I'm going to cover a bunch of newbie questions. I saw a bunch of questions flying through in my newbie group this morning. And, well, it's not my group, it's a group I belong to. Um, I should start a group, though. Yeah, maybe I will. So anyway, there was over the past couple days, a bunch of the same questions have been coming over and over and over. Um, one of the main ones is, do I need a mask? Okay, so yes, that you have to have nitrile gloves on. You definitely have to wear gloves. Can you get the resin off your skin with some alcohol or something? Yep, you sure can. Um, the more contact your skin has with resin, the faster you're going to develop an allergy to it. And once you have an allergy to it, a simple N95 mask is no longer going to work. You're going to need the full Monty. So I have the big respirator now, and yeah, because I ignored it, you know. I ignored it in the beginning and thought, oh, it's no big deal. It comes right off. It's a big deal. It took 8 months, and my face was so swollen you couldn't see my eyes. So there you go. Um, I have been doing this for quite a while now, and I'm not just blowing some smoke out there at you. You need freaking nitrile gloves on when you're working with epoxy resin. The end. Um, someone, one of the other people had commented that the N95 masks are not enough. Yeah, they are. Especially if your resin is one of the ones that say no VOCs, because the VOCs are the toxins. That's the toxic part of it. So if your resin, it has nothing to do with odor. It has to do with the toxins, the fumes that are coming up out of it. Um, yeah, it's probably most of the ones that say food safe, and we'll get to that in a second. Most of the ones that say food safe are all low or no VOCs, which means if it heats up, it's not going to release chemicals. That said, food safe means it's kind of like the 3-minute rule. If you drop something on the floor, if you pick it up within 3 seconds, it's edible. It's really not, but okay. Um, food safe means that if it comes into contact with it, it's not going to poison you. It doesn't mean that it's safe to serve food out of. So, like, I make these really cute little decorative honey pots. I don't have one close. Well, I've got one of the jars here. So this is one of the jars, and it's not finished or anything yet. But let me see if I can. So this is one of the jars. And I make these only not prismatic like this, but I make these little honey pots, and it's got cute little bees on the lid. And it's adorable. It's a decoration. You don't store honey in it. For one, honey is highly acidic and it will draw chemicals out of anything plastic. So, yeah, no food. No food, no food, no food. No food gets stored in any of these jars that y'all are making. Uh, you know, I had even contemplated, because I cook a lot, and I use like little pinch pots for my spices and my salts, especially my salt and pepper. And I had thought about putting salt and pepper in one because, well, it's dry and it's not going to draw anything out, except salt draws moisture from the air, which adds moisture to so I don't know. Would it be safe? I don't trust it. So I'm saying no. if you feel safe, I, I can't stop you, you know. I see a lot of people making charcuterie boards. Um, would I serve food on one? Uh, you know, I don't know. I I don't think I would. I mean, they're adorable. I love looking at them, but I think it's decoration. I don't think now could you maybe put plastic wrap down first and then serve it? Then yeah, you know, maybe I would do it that way. And you know, that would keep you a bit safer. A food safe plastic that has FDA approval, you know, but there is even the resins that say food safe, and most of those are going to be like your countertop resins, because it means, well, if I drop a grape on my kitchen counter, is it safe to pick it up and eat it? Yeah, you know, because it's not sitting there absorbing chemicals, right? So food safe means it's safe to come in contact with. It doesn't mean it's safe to serve food in. Okay? It's just not. So I felt I really needed to say that, because I mean, guys, come on. I don't want anybody to get sick. This is such a fun hobby, and I've turned this craft into a business for myself, you know, so I absolutely love it, and I go at it like 40, 50 hours a week. So, you know, it's not. And they don't make that clear. They just don't, because I mean, I remember when I first got that pot mold, oh, it's a couple of years, but you know, I found resin that said food safe. So I thought, you know, that's what it meant. And then I was watching, I think Steve McDonald. I was watching one of his, and he's going over all of it, and I thought, well, shit, you know, holy moly. So I went and I researched it myself, and I thought, yeah, he's right. By the way, if you guys haven't watched him, he's brilliant. Go watch Steve McDonald. He's got some. I think it's Steve McDonald's Arts and Crafts. I absolutely love him. So yeah, uh, don't. That's my biggest. I want you to be safe. I want you to have fun. I want you to, you know, um oh, another thing. Don't be don't be eating, and you know, I have my drink here. I've always got it at my desk because I'm on medicine that keeps my throat dry all the time. So I'm always taking a drink. But I don't have to touch my straw with the hands I'm working with that are gloved. And if you look, there's like resin all over and this is one of the new ones. So I mean, there's resin all over it. Um, but nothing touches anywhere where my mouth is. And I demask and take a drink, put the mask back, right? And that's okay. But you're not going to be able to sit and eat and drink while working with resin. You can't. It's not safe. Like, you know, if you're going to have like girlfriends over and throw a resin party, and hey, that sounds like fun, and I'd be right up for that. I would do it. But alcohol and resin don't mix, because you're not always, especially if you've had too much, you're not thinking clear. If you mix up too much, you can get flash cure, which could start a bloody fire. I mean, yeah, be safe, right? And if you get resin on your hands and you don't know it, and then you're eating something and then you're consuming it, not safe, right? So these things are worrying me, and I've seen a lot of questions over the past couple of weeks, that in different groups, that have just come on, guys. This is not for children. This is epoxy resin isn't a toy. It's a tool. And it's a craft. It's a fun craft. But you've got to respect it, you know? You just have to. And it's like, when you first learn to drive a car, it's a lot of fun, right? If you don't respect it, you're going to get hurt. You've got to take the proper precautions or it's dangerous. That's what I'm trying to get across. Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm just so worried about you guys. I just am. Um, One of the other questions. Here we go. Um, I was actually responsible this time and wrote down talking points, which I normally don't do. I normally just go completely off the cuff because that's who I am. Um, Putting food inside resin. Okay. You cannot put anything that contains moisture inside resin. It's got to be dry. So, can you take a cup of like 8 ounces of resin and dump 8 ounces of sand in it, mix it up, and it'll cure? Absolutely. It works perfect. Can you take 8 ounces of resin and put a bag of Skittles in there? You know what? With the candy coating, because the coating is dry, it'll cure. It'll cure. I'm almost positive it'll cure. Will it last? You know, that candy has moisture inside it, and I I don't know. I don't know what you're going to have in the end. Will it look really pretty a week or two after it's made? Probably. A month, maybe. A year, 2 years. I don't know. Would I make something like that and sell it? Nope. Would I make it for myself to test it out to see how long it would last? Yeah, that I might do. Okay, something like grapes? No. No. Like, so the outside is all dry, the skin's dry. Would the resin cure? You probably got about a 50-50 chance of it actually curing. But when the resin heats up, it's going to heat up the grape and soften the skin and release the juice, and you're going to have a pot of a mess. It's just going to be a mess. Nothing, even bread seems dry, right? It's not like it's real wet, but it is moist. And so, it's not going to cure properly. It's just not. So, food in resin, yeah, I say no. I am no. Um, if you want it to look like Skittles, I mean, maybe make clay Skittles and paint them. I don't know. I don't know, but try it. M&Ms, it's going to melt. Resin heats up. So anything that heats up, like if you tried to put crayons in resin, the wax is going to melt. So will it probably keep most of its form? Yeah, probably. But I want you to think if it would melt on the dashboard of my car with the sun shining on it, which is hits it about what, 160? It's about the same that your resin's heating up. So if it will melt on the dashboard of your car in the summertime in the sun, it's going to have the same effect in your resin, pretty much. So yeah, anything wax based, anything that will melt is going to melt in the resin too. Paper and pictures and all of that. My dog's in here with me. All of that makes beautiful embeds. It's beautiful, but you have to seal it. Paper is porous. For one, you're going to get tons of little air bubbles if you don't, like if you just, let's say you just shredded up a bunch of confetti and you wanted to mix it into resin. If you didn't want to cure it, number one, you might get away with it if you're using a very thin deep pour resin. Um, yeah, especially if you had some real expensive paper where you knew the dye wasn't going to bleed into it, then you could probably do that because the resin is thin enough for all the tiny micro bubbles to actually release before it started to cure. Could you do it in a higher viscosity resin, like a tabletop resin or even one of the bubble free resins, which are a lower viscosity? Um, I'll cover the viscosity in a minute. Um, then no, no. If you're using a 1-to-1 that says bubble free on it, then it's a thinner resin and it's going to release a little more of the bubbles for you, but I don't know if it's going to release enough if you're just shredding up paper or confetti, because all of that paper does hold air and it's going to release microbubbles. So it will definitely release more than a tabletop, which is a medium viscosity resin, right? It's going to release more than that. Will it release using like a 4 hour or a 1 hour cure, which is the heavier viscosity, which you use for like tumblers and stuff? Um, I think you better seal confetti at that point, you know? Now, and that's only if it's dye set, like the dye is not going to bleed. So if you're looking at like construction paper, the dye bleeds right out of it and your resin's going to be a mess. So it's going to be all murky and yeah, it's going to get like a real murky, icky. So, yeah. Um but if you've got pictures and you want to seal those in, if you want to put up like a picture, you can print a pretty picture out from your inkjet printer. You're going to need to either spray it with like a Krylon, anything, I would use a matte, like a matte sealer, like matte gloss, not glossy. The resin doesn't stick as well to the glossy. So I would use a matte and spray seal it in, or use a laminate. Like uh, I've got the heat laminate, which I really like, and then there's the peel. It's almost like a tape, and you kind of just sort of peel the sheet and stick it in between. I think Avery makes it. You can pick that up at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Amazon, whatever. Just I think it's called self-adhering clear laminating sheets. I think that's what the sticky ones are called. Um, let's see. Um, if you're going to do a picture and like use your Cricut, say you're going to do like a bunch of stickers and you're going to cut them out, you laminate it and then you're going to cut them out. Okay, if you do that with your Cricut or your Silhouette or whatever, or just if you're cutting it out with scissors. Now, if you laminate it first and then you cut it out and you're cutting right to the paper, then the resin is touching the paper. It's going to soak the resin in and smear your picture and ruin it. So you either need to leave enough of the what am I trying to say? The laminate needs to be sealing in the paper completely 100%, or the resin's going to touch the paper and ruin your ink. Okay. Um, if you want to, laminate it like that with the self-it lamination, then cut it out with the Cricut, then you can take some like Mod Podge or glue, PVA glue, school glue, Elmer's glue, some type of glue, and take like put a bit on your finger and go around the edge, let it dry, and that'll seal it in. And you can do it that way. Or if you're applying it, say, to the exterior, well, did I do one of these? So, hold on. All right, so I did one here. This was a sticker. I stuck the sticker on after I poured this dish. I stuck the sticker on it, and then I brushed over the entire sticker. This was a paper sticker. I brushed over the entire sticker with some Mod Podge, let it dry, and then I just poured on the top. I just poured a little bit of epoxy, kind of top coated it, and you could do the same thing with UV resin even. Just squirt a little UV resin over it and let it cure. If it's really, really thin, then it should cure okay for you like that. Even though it's got a darker background and the light's not traveling clear through it. If it's a super thin coat, then the light should be strong enough to cure it solid for you. Okay? But yeah, epoxy's just easier for me. What else? Alcohol inks. Okay, so I've seen a whole bunch of posts in the past couple of days. I mixed my resin correctly. I did it exactly like it said. It was mixed to the T. I mixed it for 6 to 8 minutes and it's not curing. Okay, what can cause that? If you have a resin that is supposed to be measured by volume and you're measuring it by weight, it's not going to be the proper proportions because part A is heavier than part B. And so if you're measuring them by weight, you're not getting the right amount of part A. You're getting way less part A because it's heavier, so that's why they require it to be measured by volume, not by weight. So you've got to read the directions, follow the directions, and do exactly what the manufacturers say, because all resins are a little bit different, I mean, they're manufactured different. They're not all the same. So it would be tons easier if they were. That's what I keep saying about them stupid ATM card reader things at the grocery store. If they were all the same at the checkouts, we'd know how to use them. Okay, there it goes. I'm venting. Okay, so anyway, that measuring by weight instead of volume or volume instead of weight, not following the directions, that can cause your resin to stay soft and not cure properly. Alcohol ink. If you add too much alcohol ink, it can keep it from curing properly. It can be, keep it soft. When I'm working with epoxy resin, unless you're doing something like the blooms, unless you're trying to get the Petri effect and you're doing the blooms, then just use the pigments. The liquid pigments are stronger. It takes less. You'll save a ton of money that way. Use the pigments. And there's quite a few of them that, still will color without being solid. So you'll still get the translucent look with a pigment than, just like you do with the the alcohol ink. Another thing with the alcohol ink, I bought this big set. I think I got it off. I think it was from Amazon, and I think it was called like U.S. Art Supply or something. It's a big old set, and the bottles were pretty good size. And I don't think I have one sitting up here. Um, the colors were nice, but I had a coaster that was sitting next to my UV lamp, and it only took 2 days sitting next to my UV lamp, and because I was using it off and on all day long. 2 days that my pink flower was brown. So, yeah, alcohol inks fade really quick in UV light, which is sunlight. Any light, and even if it's sitting in a window that doesn't get direct sun, it's still UV light. I mean, it's still coming in. So it's going to eventually fade your flowers out. Now, Let's Resin has a constant. Their dye is more concentrated, and I kind of tested it out some and left left it sitting. Left a little. I made like a little pendant with it and left it sitting right next to the UV lamp, and we're going on like 3 or 4 weeks of it sitting right there next to the lamp, and it's not faded a bit. So the only alcohol ink that I would recommend using would be the Let's Resin brand. That's, yeah, especially if you're planning on selling things. Because if you make like a necklace for someone, like a UV necklace, and then they're outside in the sun, you don't want your customer to end up with this brown, ugly thing that used to be a beautiful pink, right? So, yeah. Um, and we all know if you get one bad review on Etsy, it's like, people don't see the 400 5-star reviews. They see the one bad one, right? That's just human nature, I guess. But anyway, so there's the alcohol ink, there's the resin pigment, and there's liquid pigment, there's pigment paste, and they all work about the same. And the pigments take a lot less than the dyes. So there's mica. Um, you cannot add mica. Okay, so you can paint mica when you're using UV. No, no, no. When you're using epoxy resin, you can paint the mold with mica. You can add the mica directly to the UV resin or the epoxy resin. You can color the epoxy that way. Um, you can color epoxy with glitters. And seriously, with epoxy, it's going to dry no matter what. So it does not matter how much glitter you dump in it, or how much foil, or how much chameleon powder or pigment powder, or, if it's a dry powder, if it's something dry, it does not matter how much of it you dump in there, it's still going to cure. Now, if your ratio, say you're using sand, I like to use the sand thing. So if you're using sand and you've got more sand than you do resin, the resin's still going to cure, but your project is not going to probably be as strong. So you're still going to get 100% cure, but whatever you're making may be brittle because the sand is not as strong as the epoxy, right? Yeah. So anyway, there's that point. Okay, and there's the dog. Using paint as a pigment. Um, yeah, definitely, you can use acrylic or latex paint, but you should really test the sample first, like do a little test sample, because not all latex paints are created equal. And I've noticed some that if you add them to resin, you won't cure. It just won't cure. And I think it's because there's too much liquid in them. There's too much water. Um, all of your acrylic and latex paints will say water-based, and resin doesn't like water. Epoxy hates it. Epoxy resin. So I keep I interchange the two too much, and I guess I keep forgetting that people are new. So it's epoxy before it's mixed. So you got epoxy part A, epoxy part B. When you mix them together, you get resin. So it's epoxy resin. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Do a test sample before you don't mix like up an 8-ounce jug of resin and then add some latex paint to it and mix it up, and maybe it will work, maybe it won't, so kind of test it to make sure that you know which brands are going to work for you. um, I have used all of the Artezas, and so far I've not had any trouble with the Arteza. I think I've used the Apple Barrel, yeah, which are these ones, the Apple Barrel, I've used with no trouble. I've used the Folk Art with no trouble. Um, but then I had this one that was an off brand, and my resin wouldn't cure with it. It just wouldn't harden, and it just stayed like bendy. So, and then there was some that a friend of mine used, and it was like, you know who you are if you're watching. Um, she used a latex paint, and it didn't agree with the resin, and it really created some fumes, and like the pot turned out perfect. Here's the pot, but it stinks to high. Oh, it stinks horrible bad. Um, Still, and this is now almost a year old, and it still has a really strong smell, and that I don't put the lid on it because it's even worse with the lid on it. And she keeps yelling at me to throw it away, and I can't because she made it for me. So anyway, it sits here stinking, but I can't throw it away because my friend made it for me, right? How can you? Yeah. Anyway, she keeps yelling at me to throw it away, and I can't. But anyway, and we've kind of concluded that maybe it's because of the latex paint. So we don't. I don't know for fact. She don't know for fact, but that's kind of the only thing different that the two of us are doing. So we kind of think that might be where it's from. So anyway, um, definitely do test samples with your acrylic paint to make sure that it's compatible with your resin. Um, UV resin. So to color UV resin, you can use small amounts of alcohol ink to color it. Okay. You cannot use resin dyes. It makes a clunky mess, or it does in my resin anyway. So if it's working for yours, you go. But I'm telling you, small amounts to color UV resin, like buy colored UV resin. It's the easiest, it really is. But yes, you can use small amounts of alcohol ink to color it. Um, you can use small amounts of glitter to color it. You can use small amounts of mica to color it, small amounts. But here's the deal with UV. If the light cannot travel clear through, it won't cure. Now you can flip it over, if you cure it on one side, and especially if you're using like a translucent, you know, so you fill it up and then you flip it over and cure it on the other side too. Um, So yeah, you can use mica mixed into the UV resin in small amounts, but it can't be completely cloudy, because if the light can't get all the way through, it's not going to cure for you. It's just not. I seen someone say, "Oh, well, we use latex paint and I always use it and it works great for me." Yeah, if the UV resin, if light cannot travel through it, if you can't see through it, light can't get through it, and it's not going to cure. So if you always do it and it always works for you, you're magic. Because I've been doing it for 4 years, I can't get it to work. So I don't know what you're doing different, but I don't know. I personally, and I don't know everything, so I'm here to tell you, if you're getting it to work, please let me know how, because I haven't got it to work. What I have got to work that's actually solid is UV nail polish. UV gel nail polish. I have added that to, don't I have a piece of that? Here. So, yeah. So, I don't know if you can. So, I kind of was working to get the Petri effect using UV nail polish, and that is a solid color. And I did get that to cure in UV resin and work quite well. But even then, see, it's swirled so the light can get through it, right? So, will it? Yeah. So it's a solid yellow and it's a solid black, but light can still get through because I swirled it. So, I don't know, but here's a bigger one that I did. So, and then this is solid, more solid. Let's see if the camera can pick it up. See? So, and that's with the nail polish. So the gel nail polishes, I have had a lot of success if I want a solid color piece. What does not work is painting the mold with mica and then putting UV resin on it. It's not going to cure, because when you flip it over to the other side to cure it, the light can't get through because you've painted it with mica powder. So you're not going to get a cure. It's not going to work. Paint your mold with mica, and pour epoxy on it, and it will work perfect. But paint your mold with mica and put UV resin in it, it's not going to work. It's not going to cure. It's just not. So, yeah. What else? Let's see. I think I got all the talking points out that I was trying to get with this one. If you have questions, if I didn't cover something, and I'm sure there'll be, please pop it down in the comments for me, and I will absolutely, I will get to it and read it, and I'll try and answer you in the comments. And if it's going to be something that's a long answer, I'll just do a video on it for you. Okay. Yeah. I posted in the newbie group that I'm in, um, if anybody has any questions, what are they, so that I could add them to this clip. So I'm going to go check that group chat and see if there's any other questions that have come up. Do me a big favor though, guys. Hit the thumbs up for me. The more thumbs ups I get and the more subscribes I get, the more YouTube will, show my channel. And yeah, I need the channel to grow. I swear to God, guys, I'm too old to keep jumping in that car and driving Uber all day. It's killing me. So I need, my hopes is that I can grow this channel enough and my business enough, and sell enough of my works that I can stop driving Uber, because this old lady's getting tired. So anyway, yeah. So okay. So I'm going to go check on the group and see if there's more questions. If you got a question, pop it in the comment and I'll get to you, okay? All right, guys. Till next time.